News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. A final public hearing on renaming Dixie State University attracted a strong showing of both supporters and opponents on Utah's Capitol Hill Tuesday afternoon. The Utah legislature is set to consider a bill that would rename the Southern Utah School to Utah Tech University. That name has previously been approved by the Dixie State Board of Trustees and the Utah Board of Higher Education. The final decision now rests with lawmakers. The House of Representatives could take up the issue as early as today as legislators meet in a special session. KUTV reports Dixie State student Penny Mills rallied outside the Capitol before the hearing. She said students are afraid of their futures, especially with everything that's happened in the last 2 years. Supporters of a name change have said the term Dixie carries racist connotations and hurts students in the job market, but many people showed up at the Capitol donning Dixie gear and wearing red to defend Dixie's name and plead with lawmakers to leave it in place. KVNU News Time is 4:06. KVNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy this evening, then mostly cloudy. Slight chance of snow after midnight tonight, low in the low 30s. And then rain and snow likely Thursday morning. Rain likely in the afternoon tomorrow. Little or no accumulation. High temperature in the mid-40s. Mostly cloudy and lower 50s on Friday. It's been to 47. It's 45 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aid technology. Call 753-HEAR, 753-HEAR.
Okay, Piggy. This time that steel building is coming down.
What you got there, Wolfie?
It's a tornado in a tube. How can that be? Your building's still standing. I'm blown away.
A building from Northern Steel Buildings will keep out the big bad wolf, and they don't break the piggy bank. Visit northernsteelbuilding.com to see their quality work or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concepts to construction.
KVNU News Time is 4:07. The Republican-controlled Utah legislature approved a new congressional district map today that further carves up Democratic-leaning Salt Lake County and largely ignores the work of an independent redistricting commission approved by voters. The new maps now go to Governor Spencer Cox, who has indicated he will not veto them. The new district lines will determine where voters cast their ballots for the next decade and make the state's lone swing district more reliably Republican, leading critics to call them gerrymandered. GOP lawmakers say the lines better reflect the state by including both rural and urban areas. And the family of a 10-year-old girl who died by suicide has alleged that a Utah school district did not do enough to protect their daughter, who they say was bullied for being black and autistic. The district was recently reprimanded by the U.S. Department of Justice for failing to address widespread racial discrimination. Salt Lake City police confirmed this week they are investigating the weekend death of Izzy Tickner as a suicide. Izzy's family says they reported the bullying, but nothing was done to stop the harassment. A Davis School District spokesperson said the school administration responded appropriately to the reports of bullying. KVNU News Time is 4:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The latest news 24/7. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. We all know buttons make our lives easier. But if you have sleep apnea and can't use CPAP, did you know there's a button that can help you go from this to this? It's called Inspire. It's a small device that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. If you struggle with CPAP, great sleep awaits at InspireSleep.com. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
For some, this is the most wonderful time of the year. Yippee! For me, It's the worst time of the year because it's time to hang my Christmas lights. Come on. Last year, I fell off my ladder into the rose bush. The year before, my lights didn't work at all. Not this year. I'm using Logan Extermination. They can install my own Christmas lights, or they can install their LED or incandescent lights. Enjoy the holidays and preserve your sanity by calling Logan Extermination. 752-8450.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight
With Jason Williams.
and I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVN News for the People. It is Wednesday, November 10th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Thank you for joining us. Doing my best here on the show, or will do my best, to recap what has been a bit of a chaotic day on Utah's Capitol Hill with the legislative session. As expected, the Senate passed, the House yesterday, the Senate this morning passed the redistricting map that lawmakers found under a couch cushion magically last Friday. Same way this played out 10 years ago, which really, fosters a lot of cynicism, unfortunately, and disrespect for the process and the legislative body itself. It's unfortunate that lawmakers approach things this way, but like 10 years ago, same thing playing out, leaving a lot of people feeling like the public hearings and the summer tour and all of that 10 years ago were just a dog and pony show. This year, they didn't even bother with the dog and pony show. They let the independent commission do its thing very transparently and open with the public involved. And then in the final days, they just ignored all of their recommendations, unveiled a map of their own that they probably had decided on months ago, and then passed it. All said and done. Governor Cox, under a lot of pressure last night during a town hall, Facebook Q&A, he called it, but basically an online town hall. Almost every question in the Q&A portion of his discussion was about redistricting, and everyone wanted to urge him or to ask him to veto the maps. One man, a Republican from Box Elder County, actually said he's a lifelong Republican, said he doesn't. He's not asking the governor to veto the map because of any partisan preference, obviously. Could care less whether Utah has a future Democratic Party congressman going to D.C. for us, but said the process was distasteful and that it wasn't very transparent and that the legislature should be held accountable for that. I agree, but I also agree with the governor, whose response last night, for those wondering, the governor said unequivocally no, he would not be vetoing. It's just practical on the governor's part. They have a veto-proof vote in both houses for this bill. Governors have limited political capital. The governor expects to be in opposition to some upcoming legislation involving education and this national manufactured fervor over critical race theory. The governor has said he's not going to support micromanaging teachers in Utah or banning of books that have already been approved as part of the curriculum. So he is holding his political capital for those type of fights that will begin in January of next year as that legislative session gets underway. I think it's a smart move on the governor's part. A lot of folks wanted him to send a message about this process because it has been kind of ugly, to say the least. I think the reality of it, though, redistricting just doesn't matter enough to the average person. It should. but it doesn't enough to the average person, and so the legislature will get away with this, and we'll move on. The legislature did. They moved on. As Bill mentioned in the news, only a few surprises today. I call today chaotic because there have been a lot of bills introduced and then circled. They didn't have a lot on the agenda. The agenda was redistricting, which again is now done, to advance in some way a rewritten bail reform process here in Utah, or minorly tweaked is what Senate President said. Not a lot of changes, but bring it back after they knee-jerk repealed it during the regular session earlier this year, something they, as I mentioned yesterday, instantly regretted when they realized that the data presented to them during a committee meeting by the Utah Sheriff's Association was basically fabricated. The data purported to show that dangerous, violent criminals have been put back on the streets left and right by bail reform, and it just ended up not being at all true. And so the legislature was angry about that and said they get back to it. Interestingly enough, they have not, this is the legislature sending a message, they have not invited the Utah Sheriff's Association to really be a part of this new bail reform package. That is still kind of lingering. It's not squashed. Bill mentioned the Dixie State rename. That was something else on the agenda. That bill was circled, but don't read too much into that. Circling a bill could mean the sponsor was busy when the bill came up, so it may still be back. Interestingly enough, this legislative session, though, is going into the evening. Not very typical for a special session. Special sessions are usually a pretty tight agenda, with many of them are over before lunchtime. This one, though, is going to go into the evening, which, of course, means that our planned guests from the legislature had to cancel on us. Well, we had to cancel on them because we can't do a recap of what happened if it's not over yet. So we'll kick that to tomorrow, and we'll hear from lawmakers on that. But redistricting is done. That the governor will sign it, and there will be lawsuits, I guarantee, over this map. But the good news, the State House, State Senate, and school district portion of this map were not bad. The congressional map is just horrendous. And if a map was ever going to fall in court against a lawsuit, this is the map that could. And I think lawmakers are a bit anxious about that. But the rest of the map, the local districts, I think are pretty good and closely match what was recommended by the independent commission. So it looks like what's happened here is lawmakers basically borrowed all the stuff they liked from the independent commission and called it their own, and then drew this new congressional map themselves with basically protecting incumbents in mind more than anything else. And a lawsuit has already been threatened. Whether that comes about or not, we'll see. I almost guarantee it does with this map. So that's done, except for the lawsuit that might come. But as far as this special session, so still up again, bail reform. Yesterday, I mentioned this on the show. It's worth noting. It's a minor change to elections, but there was a lot of speculation and concern when people saw a bill was going to be discussed during this legislative session called elections deadline amendments, I believe, or election rules amendments. There was concern over that. It turns out the bill was a very innocuous thing, not at all tied to some of the silliness going on nationally with elections and conspiracy theories. It was simply a bill that eliminated a problem. Well, now some would argue this isn't a problem, a good thing, but it was an unfairness, basically, in the election process here in Utah regarding primarily candidate filing start at times and deadlines. And this all stems from, again, the legislature. This was a smart move. The legislature would traditionally start the second to last week of January. That would be a 4-day week. They'd start on a Tuesday. And so they'd have 4 days, and that opening week is kind of just an introductory week. Mostly it's bill files being introduced, talking to the media a lot about what some of the priorities of leadership will be, getting the ball rolling on the legislative session. Then the second week, they're supposed to get to work. But what would traditionally happen is that second week was also a 4-day week due to a national holiday and a state holiday on that Monday of the second week. And so they felt they were actually losing time to be productive. So they bumped the opening date back a week, meaning they would still start on a Tuesday, but then the following week would be a full work week for them. That was a smart move, but that meant that the legislative session then overlapped with the opening day of candidate filing period, a week-long period here in Utah. For the 7 days that candidates could file to run for office, lawmakers are actually banned from doing anything campaign or re-election related during the 45-day session. So what happened last year, the first year that they started a week later than normal, most lawmakers were wrapping up the legislative session on Thursday of that week, and then all of them had to file for re-election on Friday. And that was a crunch for some of them, especially, for example, Southern Utah lawmakers who left the legislative session, maybe went home, and then maybe needed to have all the paperwork ready. And after a long drive, getting home at 3 in the morning, had to have all the paperwork ready and get in and file to run for re-election. It also meant that there was a lot of speculation that week that obviously not a lot of incumbents lost their jobs in municipal elections. They weren't up for re-election. But the concern was that they could next go round in 2022 if they can't file to run for office. Their opponents are getting about 5 days of campaigning where they can actually campaign on the fact that the person they're primarying or running against has not filed for office yet, maybe doesn't plan to seek re-election. And so I'm okay with this type of, despite my criticism of the protect the incumbents congressional map, I'm okay with this kind of protect the incumbents because it's really just a matter of fairness. So what they did yesterday in this legislative action, it was a simple bill, and it basically bumps the candidate filing start time back to the Monday after the legislative session ends. So after the legislative session will kick off last week of January, run for 45 days, and then the Monday, they wrap up on a Thursday at midnight every time, and then the following Monday is when the candidate filing period statewide will begin. So lawmakers will not be scrambling to file for office on the final day. Also, interestingly enough, they're not allowed to fundraise, or supposedly the rules say even coordinate or talk with any campaign apparatus that they might have set up for re-election. They're technically banned from all of that during that 45-day session, which is a good thing. The intent of that statute is to eliminate the temptation to run for re-election while doing the people's work. And I'm sure it happens. These are pretty tight circles. Many lobbyists who are up there on the Hill lobbying for or against various pieces of legislation are also part of lawmakers' re-election campaigns. That's pretty a common thing. So, I'm sure there's coordination and talk, but there's at least a statute saying, if you're caught blatantly campaigning for office while you're supposedly there doing the people's work for 45 days, there are some pretty strict penalties for that. So that was a minor change yesterday to election law here in Utah. Again, there was a lot of worry and anxiety about this because the title was so vague and it mentioned elections. And a lot of crazy things have been going on around the country on that front. But it was a very minor change that was just kind of an issue of fairness that I think was probably a smart change. So the Utah House at this point is discussing the previously circled bill on the Dixie State name change. This has been a multi-year debate. It was something that the legislature was okay with from the get-go because they felt that the stakeholders who had come to them and requested that they approve this name change, which the legislature has to do for any public or land grant institution in the state. And that's why they're involved, why they get to sign off on this. But they were just about to sign off on it because they had, surveys. They were presented with surveys of the student body who were basically saying, look, we're having a hard time finding jobs because we go out and maybe a student is looking for a job in another state that sees the word Dixie differently as most other states do, especially southern states, and then they're not hiring us. So it's kind of cheating. It's damaging the reputation of the university. It's making finding a job hard. The community, at least as far as lawmakers knew, was in support. And then as the bill came up in the legislative session, the committees were packed with this group that is just adamantly opposed to dropping the Dixie State name. I've joked about this. I personally could not see myself losing an iota of sleep over the name of a public college or land-grant university, unless it was just an absolutely horrible, embarrassing name. It's not something that I can't understand what would cause someone to be so upset about a proposed name change. But many are, and that might be why the lawmakers have postponed it. Sponsor of the name change bill, Representative Miles, a Republican from Southern Utah, is making a careful argument on the House floor as we speak, actually. This is the second attempt at that, and he's laying out, you can watch this, by the way, at le.utah.gov. He's laying out what he describes as a, quote, comprehensive study around the issue, including stakeholders following the guidelines, and said that he vehemently disagrees with those opposed to the name change who have claimed in the committee earlier today that they haven't been heard by the university. Miles said that they have been heard, and the university, after speaking with the student body and surveying the community themselves, has found them to be in the minority, and so they're going ahead with the name change. Representative Rex Shipp, a Republican lawmaker from Cedar City, said that he attended Dixie State, as it's called right now, on a baseball scholarship, and said that during a recent event at the school, he said he spoke to students and that in his experience, not one of them wanted the name change. Representative Miles countering that the change is due to some documented insurmountable challenges for institutions with names tied to some unsavory history, and said that, for example, SkyWest Airlines, at one time a major sponsor of, or a major donor to universities throughout the United States, had listed Dixie State as one they would not, fund any kind of school or thing like that, or aviation school through because of the name. So that's an example that was provided. The debate is still going on. We'll see. As of about 40 minutes ago, the bill had passed the House, but now it's sitting and waiting for a vote in the Senate. And we'll see what happens with this. But again, expect lawmakers to work into the night, a very atypical thing for a special session. And part of that is that bail reform is still up for discussion. And this one's going to be controversial in one way or another, I guarantee. There are a lot of opposing viewpoints on this. Lawmakers, though, I think are clearly trying to send a message here that they regret their knee-jerk reaction of repealing the bail reform bills back in the spring. And I think that they won't go home tonight until that bill has passed. That would be my prediction. But if you'd like to follow along into the evening, I believe they are just about to gavel out for a break, and then they'll be back at 6 o'clock, just as our show ends. So perfect timing. You can listen, live stream and video at le.utah.gov. And there's your day on the Hill, day 2 of the legislative special session recap. We'll let you know if anything else exciting happens before the end of the show, and then they'll take a break again and be back at, 6:15 for the final floor, probably a 2-hour floor time to discuss that bail reform bill. We'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this.
Jessup Insurance would like to invite you to attend a friendly, no-pressure, no-cost educational Medicare 101 meeting Wednesday, November 17th. Get to know Jessup Insurance as they guide you through Medicare, simplifying the entire process, all while enjoying a yummy dessert. Wednesday, 7 p.m., November 17th at Jessup Insurance. Call 213-3200. That's 213-3200 to reserve a seat.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you prepare for your journey. After all, retirement isn't the end of the trek, it's a new beginning. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Serving overseas was just the beginning. We might be home from war, but our mission continues in communities all across the country. It's why we're out there in times of peace and crisis, providing meals to the hungry and supplies to the sick. It's why we're giving strength to those who are too weak and bringing resources to those without them. Service doesn't stop when we're done serving. It's what makes us the VFW. Learn more at vfw.org.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Kind of a funny, well, not kind of, a very funny experience I had this afternoon. I was just telling Bill about this before the show started. Bill had recently done something nice, brought something delicious into the studio. I was going to return the favor today. Because,
Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, it was Brussels sprouts.
No.
Actually, those are delicious if roasted.
And
garlicked.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
I love those. But yeah, I was going to return the favor because I finished work a bit earlier than expected today and headed to the station. Was going to swing by and grab a delicious treat. And I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm not going to name the treat, but I was listening to a podcast that included a guest that was a nutritionist. And as I was sitting in front of an establishment that sells this particular delicious treat, the guest, a nutritionist, said, blank, this same delicious treat I was about to go buy, is killing us. And so I paused because the timing was so uncanny. I'm sitting there about to go buy them.
Like,
and
does this person know where
Are you
I
watching
am?
me? Am I being tracked? How much does Google really know about my location? So the nutritionist elaborates and says, you know, I obviously am not saying really that this delicious treat is killing us. What I'm saying is that the way we've all been exposed to throughout our lives and trained throughout our lives to think about food, to think about what's easy and what's not, has led to a mindset that is, one, uniquely American and is sometimes reflected in public health data about obesity, other health concerns that can come with a poor diet, that is unique to America. Not non-existent in other countries, but definitely seems to be a bit more of an epidemic, he described it as, in the United States. And he said part of that is just cultural. We've all grown up to think of so you're thinking, I need a snack of some kind, and then your brain has been trained, regardless of your preference. You might, as you know, Bill and I just joked about Brussels sprouts. I actually do love roasted Brussels sprouts with a little garlic pepper sprinkled on them. It's delicious.
Good stuff.
And if there was just a vending machine where I could buy a lukewarm bag of those that hadn't been sitting there for a week, I would probably choose those on a somewhat regular basis. But the problem is vending machines aren't full of stuff like that. Drive-thrus aren't full of stuff like that. The easy stop walk-in shops where you can get a snack or a treat or something you're going to share at the office because someone's retiring or celebrating a birthday or whatever it might be. Those types of things don't pop into our heads. It's not because we don't like them. It's not because they wouldn't be popular as a shared treat or a personal treat. It's because we don't think about them. They're not top of our minds. What pops into our head first when we think about this thing, this type of situation, is usually something not so great for us, or at least not good for us on a regular basis or in high volume. It was really interesting to think about that. And then he got into a little of the history of this, too. A lot of this has to do with manufacturing. A lot of this has to do with what can be stored for a significant amount of time without a lot of expensive equipment. Or, obviously, as I mentioned, the hypothetical vending machine with a bag of lukewarm Brussels sprouts in it. Like, can you imagine how difficult it would be to manage a national supply or even a statewide supply or even a citywide supply of vending machines full of roasted Brussels sprouts? I mean, that would have to be some carefully designed equipment, and somebody's probably going to have to go out and check the stock on that daily. And so it's
because it's just kind of a perishable item.
Sure. So it's much more profitable, basically, to fill a vending machine with items that can sit in there for a month or 2 months, or if it's a Twinkie, apparently a few years. And that's, the doctor said, literally how we got to here. But part of it, too, he said, is that in the United States, and he kept going back to the 1950s and 40s when he said this really took off. He said that there, in our minds, and I never thought of it this way, he said in our minds, in that era, coming out of the Great Depression, when he said licorice, something you can buy anywhere today, licorice was considered a treat for the wealthy. It was so hard to find and so outside of the average person's budget.
Well, the wealthy have strange tastes.
Sure. But millions of Americans for a decade plus, almost 2 decades, didn't have money to spend on things like licorice or even saltwater taffy. That was a luxury they couldn't afford. And so in the 40s and 50s, as things started to as the recovery from the Depression really started to be evident and everyone started to benefit from it, suddenly there was this huge national interest in that type of thing. Things that normally for a couple of decades were reserved for only the wealthy who hadn't been hit hard by the Depression. Suddenly anyone could get them, and they were cheap, and they were within everybody's budget, and they were available right on the street corner, sometimes literally on the street corner at a mobile vendor, and so it became this very American thing. It became almost a status kind of thing for many people in their own heads to be able to go out and enjoy these things, and they were easily stored. They could be made weeks, even months in advance, and packaged in a way that they could be kept without special equipment, and then you just go out and get them. And so everyone did. And then it became a cultural thing, and then we just haven't moved away from that. It was a really interesting exploration that began with the single statement from this nutritionist that blank, this delicious treat I was about to go buy a couple of for Bill and I to return a favor he did. And then to hear this, literally as I'm sitting outside of this place about to go buy these, he says, they're killing us. But it was a fascinating conversation, and his recommendation is that you challenge yourself a little bit on this front. Find the things that are more healthy that you think of as equally delicious as these, not so healthy treats and snacks, and then make them easier to have, to get. Keeping a bowl of fruit or vegetables on the table as opposed to a bowl of candy. Apples, for many people, are just as delicious as a candy bar. You can get some pretty sweet apples, and they're a lot better for you, but we don't think that way.
Yeah, this morning I was doing some work, and I put together a little bowl of grapes, of the dark grapes.
Oh, sure.
The purple grapes.
That's
dark purple.
Pretty healthy snack, unless you're a dog. If you're a dog,
don't
dogs,
do that. It's not good for dogs,
no,
and dogs
toxic.
do not like grapes in general.
Except I had a lab that loved grapes, and it concerned me because they had a grapevine that would, the birds would knock all the grapes on the ground every fall, and the dog would go out and hoover them up. And I had to keep an eye on that lab. The only dog I've ever had that liked grapes. But yeah, they're toxic for dogs. So, but I was thinking about this. I'm an example of this because I realize if you put a bowl of, and I'm talking the worst kind, the greasiest kind that you can get, potato chips, in a bowl in front of me, I will just sit there and eat them until I'm either sick or they're gone. I will do the same thing if you put a bowl of baby carrots in front of me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, good.
But it's more often that a bowl of potato chips is put in front of me at a gathering or a family event.
And not only the potato chips, once the bowl's empty, I'll hunt down the bag to see if I can put some more chips in there. I won't do that with baby carrots. I should, I know, but I'm not there yet.
It's just a matter of finding that thing that is, something your brain thinks of as a treat, but it's better for you. And just make sure the doctor said that that's what's more readily available in your home or throughout your day. And it's simply a matter, he said, of retraining yourself to think about what a snack is. It was kind of fascinating, but again, the timing was just funny. I was just about to go buy these, and here I hear this doctor in the recording say, "They are killing us."
Well, you could have bought it for me still.
That's right. He did. He did say that.
Don't buy it for yourself, but buy it for your friends.
He did say, and many people who have ever tried dieting probably know this, even changing your diet, he said the worst thing you can do if you want to change your behavior when it comes to your health is jump to a total ban.
Yeah.
He said oftentimes this will actually make you think about a thing more. So he said look
forbidden fruits, so to speak.
He said look for reduction, not elimination.
Yeah.
So in how much you consume. So 753-5868. We'll be back on the other side of the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. News time is 4:40. KVNU News brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Word came out last week that COVID-19 vaccines are available for 5 to 11-year-olds in Utah. This week, the Bear River Health Department, BRHD, announced they will be opening a weekend vaccine clinic this Saturday from 10 to 2. On KVNU's For the People program on Tuesday, BRHD Public Information Officer Esty Hunt said it's been a busy couple of years trying to get a handle on the pandemic.
We're hoping to see that kind of wind down as now we've been able to have the COVID-19 vaccine available to the 5-year-olds and older. So that's kind of, that we hope is kind of the end of the tunnel right there.
Hunt said the okay came last Wednesday night from the CDC director to approve the vaccine for that age group.
So we actually started giving vaccines on Thursday to anyone 5 and up. And since that time, we've actually given out about 1,300 vaccines, a little over 1,300 vaccine shots to those 5 to 11-year-old group. A lot of parents are, I think, feeling a sense of relief knowing that that is now an option for their child.
Hunt said the walk-in clinic is not just for 5 to 11-year-olds. It is also for first and second doses, along with booster shots. The Saturday clinic will be held at the Bear River Health Department in Logan and also the Bear River Health Department in Brigham City at the same time from 10 to 2. For ease and convenience of not having to register when you arrive at the clinic, you can register at brhd.org and click on the registration form. That way you can do that for the whole family ahead of time and then just walk in and get the vaccine. The American Festival Chorus and USU Symphony Orchestra are inviting Cache Valley residents to experience a Veterans Memorial. This will be held tomorrow evening at 7:30 in the Danes Concert Hall at Utah State University's Chase Fine Arts Center. The concert is free, but tickets are required. Children ages 8 and older are welcome. For ticket information, visit AmericanFestivalChorus.org. And after months of negotiations, a bill that reforms Utah's bail system is advancing in the Utah State Legislature. Earlier this year, the legislature repealed a bill that was passed the year before, reforming the bail system in the state. It was over complaints from some in the bail bonds industry and law enforcement. Since then, negotiations have been underway on ways to advance the bill. In an interview with Fox 13, Representative Stephanie Pitcher, Democrat from Salt Lake City, said she believed that they had finally reached a good compromise. The bill had positive public comment in the Judiciary Interim Committee. It will get a vote on the House floor as early as Thursday. KVNU News Time is 4:43.
Have you pulled your winter quilts and blankets out of storage? Do they smell stale and look flat? And is your hunting gear, sleeping bags, and coats dingy as well? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen everything up with their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, the biggest around, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning, with free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. They're on the corner of 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City at 1st East and 7th South.
KVNU weather, partly cloudy this evening, then mostly cloudy. Slight chance of snow after midnight, low in the lower 30s. Rain and snow likely tomorrow morning, rain likely in the afternoon. Little or no snow accumulation expected. High temperature tomorrow in the mid-40s, and then just kind of cloudy Thursday night into Friday. High temperature in the lower 50s. It's been to 47. Right now it's 44 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Winco Foods. They're now hiring for their new Logan store, opening soon at 1341 North Main. Be a part of this employee-owned company with competitive wages, employee stock ownership plan, health benefits as low as $30 a month, 401k, and advancement opportunities. Apply at wincofoods.com/Logan Jobs or text Winco to 97211. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Senior Branch Office Administrator Dina Milligan bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of Financial Advisor Daryl Arnell and Edward Jones. U.S. equity markets fell today as inflationary pressures came to the forefront once again. The CPI inflation readings came in hotter than expected, with core CPI for October rising to 4.6% year over year, the highest level since 1982. As a result, we saw bond yields rise, with the 10-year Treasury yield up 13 basis points to 1.56%. From a sector perspective, we saw growth relatively underperform value, with technology and communication services lagging. Defensive sectors were relative outperformers, including consumer staples, utilities, and healthcare. The energy sector also sold off as WTI crude oil fell over 3% on the day. U.S. equities closed down lower. The Dow closed down 240 points at 36,080. The NASDAQ closed down 264 points at 15,623. And the S&P 500 closed down 39 points at 4,647. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 1.56% higher by 0.13 percentage points. In stocks of local interest, Home Depot is down $2.07 at $368.58. Lowe's is down $1.36 at $232.55. Nucor closed down $3.04 at $110.36. Pepsi closed up 53 cents at $164.04. R.R. Donnelley & Sons down 1 penny at $9.10. Thermo Fisher up $8.28 at $626.86. Walmart down $1.35 at $148.44. Zions Bank down 8 cents at $65.07. And Northrop Grumman closed down $2.42 at $362.10. This has been today's Financial Market Report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Daryl Arnell, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
It started out as free.
But then they said it would only be a few cents a day.
What you're hearing is real, and it may be happening to you.
I pay for streaming video, then the cloud storage, then streaming audio. Where does it end?
It ended up being a lot every month.
This is the sound of nickel and diming syndrome. It's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
I just want to hear my music. Is that so wrong?
There is hope. For millions of people, there's radio.
Radio?
Radio. With 0 down and 0 per month. Radio delivers all the news, music, and entertainment you want, when you want it, for free. No usernames, passwords, or Wi-Fi connections required.
Here's my card number. It's 735...
Shh! Don't speak. When you listen to local radio, you'll never need that.
This is so wonderful.
Yes, it is. The cure for nickel and diming syndrome.
Oh, I could use a hug.
It's radio. No subscription required.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. The legislature surprising me after I just said they wouldn't get back to bail reform or Dixie State probably until 6. We'll give you an update on that. They've uncircled both, and they're actually debating them now. We'll see what happens. So before we do that, though, a caller on the line wanted to go back to what we were talking about before the news. I told this story of this uncanny timing of hearing with what I was listening to as I pulled in to buy a delicious treat that I was going to share with Bill. I owed him a favor. He'd done this for me recently. And I thought, I'll grab those on my way to the station. Just as I was doing that, I heard the nutritionist, who was the guest on what I was listening to, say, these are killing us. And then, elaborate and say, okay, I'm not saying these specifically and only these. I'm saying our habits, culturally, how we've been trained to think about snacking, what we consider a snack and what we don't, but also what's available in vending machines, what's easiest and displayed foremost at convenience stores. It's all in response to what we're most likely to buy, and what we're most likely to buy is because of how our brains have been trained, not just by our parents, but culturally, dating back, he went clear back to the 1940s in this being a response to the Great Depression, when things like a stick of licorice were considered a luxury. Now they're not, and people went wild with that in the 1940s and 50s, he said, and it became an American thing and stuck around. It was an interesting thing to listen to. Obviously, I turned around, didn't buy those things, and came to the station empty-handed this afternoon. Bill was disappointed. Our good friend Bill wants to weigh in on all this. Bill, appreciate your call. What are your thoughts on what we consider a good snack or an easy snack?
Well, during this holiday season coming up...
Oh, a tough time for snacking, right?
Couldn't be starting it. But, I find it's very helpful to have some dried fruit, some raisins, some nuts to mix with your pint of Haagen-Dazs, because, that adds fiber to the Haagen-Dazs.
That's right.
And you need to walk a little bit more than 4 blocks to Smith to get another pint if you're going to plan on losing weight. Maybe, walk the long way around a mile.
Make it at least eight sides of a block for a mile, right? If you're going to get ice cream.
Yeah. Not that I have a Haagen-Dazs addiction or anything like that.
Oh, Bill, if you do, it's understandable. Appreciate your call. And for listeners, Bill actually brings something else up that this nutritionist talked about, which is getting creative with this stuff. Bill touched on it, and the nutritionist said the same thing. He said, if you're going to go get something that's bad for you, like a pint of Haagen-Dazs, walk there. Or bike there if you're able to, if the weather permits. That's a good way to offset. Also, including as much fiber as you can with something that's bad for you helps to cancel out a bit of the sugars and carbohydrates that can be pretty negative in high consumption. So getting creative that way. And then one of the age-old things, I actually do this, but I do it because there's a couple reasons. One, it's actually more efficient. I've timed this. This is an unscientific set of research, but I will stand by it. It's not only better for you to park a fair distance out from the door of Walmart or Smith's or wherever you're headed, because you get those extra steps. It's faster. I've actually, so a couple of friends.
Well, you can leave faster.
Sure.
Because if you're up in the front and you try to go through the front area, there's a lot of people walking across there. You have to wait.
A couple of friends didn't believe me on this, and so I actually, I think I did it for a week, I would start a little stopwatch as I entered the parking lot of wherever I was going grocery shopping or whatever, and I would alternate. One time I would, so of course unscientific, because there are a lot of factors that may have influenced this, but one time I would park out and walk in, and another time I would try and park within the closest half of the parking lot and walk in, and consistently there was a good 3-4 minute difference between finding a spot and then when you're done backing out of that spot when you're closer to the store, as opposed to parking out and just walking in and walking back. Walking in, walking back a longer distance proved each time at least that I timed it faster. This is the kind of stuff I get bored in doing in my life. Usually when a friend says, no, I don't believe you, and then I have to prove it. But yeah, it's little things like that, the nutritionist said, can actually offset. And it goes back to what he was saying. Don't try to ban bad stuff from your day. Eliminate or reduce the bad stuff in your day. Offset it with more healthy things. And walking is also a great way to do that. So appreciate the comment, Bill. And I know Bill was joking, but that's actually a great idea. If you're craving Haagen-Dazs and you know that you're going to give in and you're going to go buy and eat Haagen-Dazs, the whole pint, if the weather permits, if it's convenient, even if you're driving there, park 8 blocks away, walk to your Haagen-Dazs.
And so you can later walk off the Haagen-Dazs.
That's right. And offset it. You'll at least break even that day. So get creative, I think. All right. Again, the legislature kind of surprising me and apparently a lot of the journalists covering the legislature today. A few of these bills that have been circled, Dixie State name change, redistricting is back up for discussion, which I did not expect. I said at the start of the show this was done before noon today. They just surprised me. The redistricting maps are back up for discussion in the House just a few minutes ago. Try and sort out what exactly is going on. And again, this is why I described it as kind of a chaotic day. Lawmakers are scrambling to get a lot done in what's going to be a very short special session. We'll try and figure out. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
Dr. Josh Red, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
A lot of our patients end up having autoimmune conditions. This is where their immune system, rather than attacking bacteria, a virus, or other bad things, it starts to attack their own tissue. This can cause so many different issues and symptoms throughout the whole body. The biggest thing for us at Red River is to identify what's causing the autoimmune response to flare up. This could be intestinal problems, blood sugar imbalances, cortisol defects, hormonal imbalances, along with something as simple as dietary triggers and environmental triggers. One of the most common causes, too, when you have an autoimmune condition is you'll have inflammation throughout the whole body. Not every patient will have the same imbalances or the same triggers, and so we have to customize a very personalized treatment plan in order for these patients to feel better.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
Hi, it's Chris at Levin's. People ask us all year long, when is your big sale? It's easy to remember. It's the 11th day of the 11th month, 11/11 at Levin's. Come in for men's suits, only $111 and $125. Pattern ties, 5 for $25. Solid ties, 6 for $25. Socks, $3.50. Dress pants, $22. Maxi skirts, $11, and all women's clothing on sale. Every item in the store at least 25 to 50% off. This week only, downtown Logan, 69 North Main Street.
To the staff at Legacy House, just a quick note to say thank you for the difference you've made in Mom's life. Her attitude has improved so much since moving to Legacy House. Meal times and activities are her favorite, and she's made a lot of new friends. I don't know how I could take care of Mom, plus my own family, if it wasn't for you. Thanks again.
Legacy House of Logan provides 24-hour care to help your loved one with daily activities.
Taking care of you.
Stop by on 1400 North in Logan.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. We're going to have to keep an eye on this into hour 2. The legislature has brought redistricting back. It was done before noon today, voted on in the House and the Senate. The map that they found under a couch cushion last Friday passed, and now it's back. From what I can tell, this has to do with in the rush, I would assume, for this map they found after ignoring the Independent Commission's recommendations almost entirely, had a pretty big flaw in it, in which they were accidentally going to substantially shrink some school board districts in Davis County and somewhere in northern Utah. We'll keep digging on this. So apparently they're going to move some school district boundaries that were moved in the map, and they didn't mean to move, apparently. I don't know. But that appears to be why it's back up for debate. We'll keep you posted into Hour 2 as the legislative special session continues. The Dixie State Bill has passed the House. Vote breakdown on this, by the way, for Cache Valley lawmakers. Representatives Johnson and Snyder voted for the name change, which was requested basically by the university in the end, saying they'd like to expand their mission as a tech college and be seen less as a small southern Utah school. Strangely enough, Cache Valley Representative Mike Peterson voted against it. I have no idea why. But that appears to be a done deal at this point. Dixie State will officially be changed. Dixie State name will be changed to Utah Tech University as soon as the governor signs this one. Still bail reform and, again, redistricting back for some reason to cover. We'll keep you posted as the legislative special session